everyone. The story that I'm going to read out today is called The Utterance. It was first published in Writers Asylum in January 2014, and it captures the ordeal that a young Muslim man goes through as he tries to find a rented accommodation in Delhi with his Hindu wife. A month after he had sneezed and uttered Alhamdulillah, he was still looking for a place to move in with Yamini. The whole cycle had started again, of going through affordable houses but unlivable existential conditions, love at first sight houses but burn holes in pocket prices. They finally moved into a Muslim neighborhood in Jamia Nagar. The owner, Jumman Mirza, happily handed them the keys to the apartment, although he didn't recognize the boy who now stood in front of him as an adult and whom he had once hero worshipped for having shown the thumb to the skies. The boy, whom he had seen once in a while, heard a lot about, but never had a conversation with. To start from the beginning, he might have been born in a Muslim ghetto in the small town of Saharanpur in Uttar Pradesh, but people, without much appreciation of course, knew him as a rebel. They said he had got into the bad habit of objecting to everything around him and that it was in very bad taste. He did not shy from stating in front of the elderly that religion should enlighten, not constrict one's mind. That the Uttar Pradesh government's proposal to have Fridays as half-working days for Muslims was not needed at all. That what if Tiwariji, who owned the taxi stand by Pul Atish Bazan, asked Saqib Mullah about why he kept a beard and no moustache. After all, the mullah was also curious about Tiwariji's moustache that twirled all the way up to his cheeks and no beard. He must have been about 13 years old when he had slipped at the mouth of the Jama Masjid entrance, where everybody had gathered for the Jummah Namaz. It had rained the night before, and even though the rain was not much to speak of, it had sogged the narrow lanes of Nakhasa Bazar. He was running late and in his haste forgot to be careful about the slippery lanes. The namaz had already begun, and his dramatic fall at the entrance, legs cycling in air as his back slapped the earth with a loud thud, timed with the ritualistic greeting addressed to angels towards the men's left shoulders, which happened to be directed towards the entrance at that time. So for a brief second, all heads turned to the left, saw the sight of legs wrestling in air. And then the immediate sight, even more dramatic, of him still lying on the road and raising his thumb to the skies. Let me see you make me ever perform the namaz again. Boys of his age giggled, while the men touched their ears with La hawl wa la quwwat and continued with their prayers. Though he irked many he knew with his gutsy opinions and action, there were a few who considered him a hero. Like Jumman Mirza, the son of Abdullah Mia, whose family had owned substantial amount of land in Saharanpur, and they still lived with the pride the family had traditionally carried all those years, but under that facade they led a hand-to-mouth existence. They had lost all their land, some to the Punjabi refugees who came from Pakistan during the partition, some to the Indian government for the construction of roads and highways, and whatever remained through family disputes which were yet to be settled in the courts. Abdullah Mia took up odd jobs here and there and supported his wife and 3 children. The first 2 offspring being daughters, not much hope was pinned on them. They had to be married off at an early age to somebody who was a good enough catch. So whether the girls went to school or not, their primary training was in cooking perfect rotis. The son, Jumman Mirza, was the hope. He would be educated, fed well, and supported with all material investments because he was the one who would take care of them when old age descended. But it turned out that Jumman Mirza was a slow learner and showed no signs of any promise whatsoever. That's when they gave up on him. removed him from the government school, and set him up with the local Unani expert next to the Jama Masjid. Juman Mirza assisted the old man in keeping the shop clean and the shelves arranged. The day he saw the boy, a few years younger to him, show a finger to God, it was like daring to do what he had wanted to do all along, spending his best years with an old man with a foot in his grave and in a room that seemed as much as in a state as the old man. That day on, Juman Mirza started hero worshipping him. The boy had guts. The little boy, who had challenged the Lord in front of the Jama Masjid entrance, secured fantastic scores in his high school living examination and found a place at Hansraj College in the University of Delhi for his graduation. Over the 3 years that he was there, his liberal visions widened with the cultural shocks he received. That women can smoke in public, can use certain four-letter words with ease, can wear dresses where their armpits and cuff muscles showed. Then he went to Jawaharlal Nehru University for his master's, where discussions, texts, and lectures armed him with a philosophical orientation that transformed him into a crusader who opposed fundamentalist viewpoints and any kind of dogma. He lived his life free and independently, and that is how he wished everybody else lived. It was here that he met Yamini and fell in love completely. He met her in early October, and Octobers in Delhi are heady with fragrances in the air and the slight chill of oncoming winters, and are as much responsible for love affairs as the object of affection itself. Their love was sealed by long walks around the campus, discovering a bend or a culvert that they claimed as their own. Their love was sealed by the November mist that enveloped them, by the bonfire created in winters of twigs and discarded teacups at Ganga Dhaba, by the trees witness to their romantic feelings as they walked by or sat beneath holding hands, lost in each other. They were two people madly and deeply in love, not a Hindu and a Muslim. Disowned by their parents, they registered their marriage at the Kapasera Civil Court under the Special Marriage Act, which did not require any conversion. They were still at the university then, living in their respective hostels, finishing their MPhil dissertations. Soon, both were pursuing their doctorate degrees at the university and found themselves accommodation at Mahanati, the hostel for married couples in JNU. During that time, he revisited the pre-partition, anti-imperialistic and left-oriented poetry and prose of Hamid Akhtar, Faiz Ahmad Faiz, Ahmad Nadeem Kasmi, Manto, and Chugtai. He took to writing poems too. He wrote on characters and rituals back home in Saharanpur, struggle and fitting in as he moved to Delhi, and on communal harmony and other humanitarian matters. By the time he received his doctorate degree, he found himself in the queue of hundreds who attended interview calls for ad hoc and permanent lectureship at Delhi University. Then came a day when he was selected for a guest vacancy at Jamia Millia Islamia. It meant lower wages, but he couldn't be more grateful. One pleasant February morning, he left the university campus with Yamini. They put up at a friend's place in Vasant Kunj for as long as it took them to find rented accommodation. And finding a decent place was a fight. They looked for accommodation near Jamia Millia Islamia. They liked many a place but couldn't afford them for the price. At some places, the house was nice, but they didn't like the heap of dirt or sewers overflowing near the house, or the dirt within the house itself. Like the instance when they visited a house in an otherwise clean neighborhood at Jangpura. As soon as the landlady opened the door, a foul smell gushed out. It was difficult to stand there talking to her, so they hurried upstairs with the agent to check out the flat. A similar odor greeted them there. Unable to hold her spit anymore, Yamini rushed to the bathroom only to rush out in double the speed, swallowing her spit in at the sight of the clogged pot and sink. Then There were times when they could afford the house, but never in their lives would be able to live with no ventilation or air circulation. Finally, a place at Taimurnagar, near the Gurudwara, seemed to be the perfect fit. They liked the landlord too, a retired educated professional. He entertained them in his tastefully arranged living room and made conversations with them about his official tours all over India, experiences encountered in varied places. He asked them about their research interests, told them that his son was also pursuing a degree from Jawaharlal Nehru University, and that he would want them to counsel him on how he should chart his further academic pursuits. When the tea came in lovely bone china, with slices of homemade cinnamon cake, the landlord offered it to Yamini first, smiling in a tender, almost paternal way. "You are Yamini. And what did you say is your husband's name?" That was when he sneezed and uttered Alhamdulillah, an involuntary utterance stemming from the unconscious, even though it came from one who had shown his thumb to the skies once. He met Juman Mirza a month after that. Thank you for listening.